I'm Brian Harper. I'm Director of Communications at DAN, and I'm here today with Bella Zandona. Bella, thanks for being here with us.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, Bella, you are a marine scientist and a content
I
creator?
I am, yes.
All right. Well,
yes.
tell us. We're looking forward to jumping into those.
Yeah.
But first, you are, of course, a diver.
Yes.
And I would love to learn about your path to diving.
For
How
sure.
did you get started? What attracted you to diving?
Yeah, so at a very young age, I fell in love with the ocean. I think I was in first grade. And we actually, my first grade class, we had a presentation that we had to do, and we had to pick like an ocean animal to talk about. And I was the odd kid in the class, so I picked the squid. So that was like the very, very start of my ocean career. And I had wanted to do marine biology since first grade, and that never left. And in 2018, I got certified, my first certification for scuba diving, and the passion just grew from there. Yeah.
I love that, you talked about being the strange kid who chose, but now, we're probably most of the people who watch this will be divers and will immediately say, oh, cephalopods, of course. Like I could watch a squid or an octopus for hours and hours. So
that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So marine science. So you're not just a
science.
diver, but you're also a marine scientist. Tell us more about that journey. How'd you get into it?
So I actually recently graduated from the University of Oregon with my marine biology degree. So that's kind of the big news right now.
Congrats.
I've been telling everyone I'm a graduate, but yeah. So like I said, the journey started on when I was a kid, and then applying for colleges and finding the right place for me was a huge deal. And I wanted to stay in the Pacific Northwest since I love cold water diving and I love all the cool critters that we have in that area. So I found University of Oregon, and it fit everything. And I got to work in a neuroscience lab with baby octopuses. And I can't touch on that too much, but it was a great experience. And then I did, my thesis in Oregon, and just really fell in love with marine biology all over again.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How about diving as a marine scientist? So what changed when you went from being a recreational diver to then diving for work?
Sure. So I think a big aspect of it, and this is, more of a personal thing, was just realizing how serious the scuba industry is in marine sciences, marine biology specifically, and just being able to really pay attention to more of like the animal behaviors and taking things that I learned from the classroom from my professors and really branching out and throwing it into my scuba life pretty much. Yeah. So incorporating the two together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how about, okay, so we're Dan and we want to know about safety and how you think about safety. And so how about as a recreational diver versus as a scientific diver, what protocols or equipment or behaviors sort of did you find were different as far as, diving skillfully, safely, and well between recreational versus scientific?
Sure. Well, I think a huge thing for that is that if you're diving for fun or for photography or for a science project or something, that safety should be always number one, right? It doesn't matter if you're photographing, macro animals, or if you're taking note on the sea urchin population, let's always focus on safety. So for me personally, there wasn't that much of a bridge between the two. They were always, let's buddy check, make sure everything is good. And so it's always been both of those things intertwined together as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So you're also a content creator.
Yes.
Tell us about your journey to that.
Sure. So I started diving with Bella in 2019. And it was originally a place where I could just kind of dump my scuba photos and not annoy my friends and family with the consistent ocean stuff. So I had never intended for it to grow so much and for it to be such a huge part of my life and to open up all these opportunities that I've been, fortunate to have. But yeah, it's always growing, and it's always giving me so much more than I ever expected. It truly is a blessing, but it is a lot of work as well. Yeah, it's two sides of that coin.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. And what channels are you on? Where can people find you online?
Sure. So Diving with Bella across everything. So I have Instagram Diving with Bella, TikTok as well, and YouTube. But I'm mostly active on Instagram. That's like the main, yeah.
And tell us about the content you create. What do you like to shoot? What do you like to share? What are some of the themes that your audience knows about your channel?
Right. So a big part of my channel is focusing on the cold water diving that we have in Seattle, since I feel like sometimes it doesn't get the biggest representation in the industry. So I like to showcase all the cool animals we have, like the giant Pacific octopus and the six-gill sharks and all those like really extraordinary animals. So a lot of the content is some of my photography with diving in Seattle, and same with reels, and a lot of people are interested in the dry suit diving. So I like to showcase the dry suit, and so a lot of cold water diving.
Excellent. Yeah. So what's next for you? What do you where do you see things going with your science career, your content creation? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so I have a lot of projects in the works. I do work for Marilux as well, so I'm a marketing associate and ambassador for them. So always producing a lot of new products, and I get to play around with the new toys that we get in, which is always super fun, and make content around it. And really focusing for me on my photography. So being out there more now that I don't have homework to worry about in college, so I have more time to spend underwater. Bringing that up more and really focusing on photography and growing in that field. Yeah, so a lot of that.
So Bella, you are an underwater photographer and videographer, and I'm interested in your journey as someone learning those skills and becoming an artist, expressing yourself through those media. What artistic sensibilities do you bring to that? What lessons have you learned? How have you developed as a shooter underwater?
Sure. So I've had a sort of an eye for photography since I was young, because my dad is a photographer. So he has helped me, learn a lot of stuff in the photography world, and how to really find an eye for a shot or an eye for a video, and just viewing the world a bit more like, how can I make this a story? Learning how to story tell through a still media or even with video. So, and there's always a lot to learn with photography. That's the cool thing about it, is that there's always something new. And I've learned that as well, is that you got to keep up with it. You got to, research, study, all this stuff. But yeah, there's always the new stuff to learn, which is what I really like about it. It keeps me challenged.
Right on. Yeah. And what are some of your favorite subjects to shoot?
Oh, I love the octopuses that we have in Seattle. Yeah, we've got the ruby red octopus, which is our smaller one, and then we have the giant Pacific octopus, which I'm sure we all know is that
GPOs.
Huge thing. Yeah, very huge. Yeah, so those guys are awesome, especially because they're so smart. So you're taking a photo of them, and then you can look at them in the eye and be like, yeah, you're looking at me too. Yeah, it's a cool feeling. Yeah.
Alien intelligence.
Very alien. Yep, exactly.
So have you ever had to use DAN's services, or products or programs, or emergency assistance?
So thankfully we haven't had any emergencies when I've been diving, but I have seen DAN being used for emergencies out in the field, or out when I'm diving at a dive site, and having that, reliability and the knowledge that there is someone that's going to be there to help just in case is so nice. Yeah, it's a real big relief that you guys are there.
So Bella, as a shooter, how do you make sure that you're not getting task loaded, and that you are, keeping focused on your safety while you work?
Right. Yeah. So that's a huge thing, especially when you have a massive camera rig and you're looking for a good shot. For me, I communicate with my dive buddy a lot. Like I said, I dive with my dad mainly, so he has the camera as well. And one thing that we like to do is always signal to each other that we're going to stop and take a photo. So it's like, okay, we see an animal, like, hey, I'm going to go look at this, take a photo, give me a second, and then, you can have your turn with your camera too if you want. So just that communication underwater is such a big aspect of the photography world for us underwater.
Yep.
And also having, I have a computer on my wrist, a backup one just in case, and one on my camera housing as well. So I can look here and I can look there, and I have a backup, and same with my dive buddy. So
great.
Keeping an eye on everything is super important.
Yeah, and redundancy is such a good concept.
It is. That is a huge thing for us divers.
Yeah. And I really appreciate hearing, that you guys have developed a protocol for communicating about what you're doing, and I'm sure that helps you avoid the same ocean philosophy of buddy diving, which is not a good philosophy. And probably it doesn't count as buddy diving if you ask us. So talk about shooting in warm versus cold water. What sort of challenges does each one present?
Right. So especially in Seattle, where we have pretty current sensitive water, so we always have a ton of stuff in the water. So backscatter is our huge enemy. And just knowing how to work with, like you said, it's murky and green. And a lot of times, especially in the spring and summer months, we have maybe 2 feet of visibility, maybe 1 foot of visibility.
Not great.
Yeah. So our glorious dive days, 20 feet, which is not a lot compared to the blue tropical water, right? So it does present a lot of challenges with photography and especially with safety with the murkiness of the water. You need to be able to see your dive buddy. It's difficult to follow rules that, you have to be, if you can see your buddy, it's okay, or you have to, be around 100 feet away from each other, or, whatever rule people use. For us, we have to be like this.
Sure.
Or else we cannot see each other. So that's where those rules that we came up with shooting photography helps us make sure that we're safe, is letting each other know and whatnot.
So it's another example of, more challenging conditions really necessitating safe behaviors to manage your risk.
Exactly. And having, we always have a pre-dive meeting where we talk about, okay, this is, and thankfully we dive a lot in Seattle, so we know a lot of these dive sites like the back of our hand. So we'll go, go down the line and do a turnaround here and look at this, and then we'll head back up. So having that set plan is nice when you can't see anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. And that's another, practice that Dan is a strong supporter of, is pre-dive meetings, pre-dive briefings, pre-dive safety checks. Right. It's really important to establish, some practices with your buddy, make sure you're on the same page.
Exactly.
Set yourself up for success.
Yeah. And of course we do that when we're diving the clear blue tropical water as well, having that set plan of what we're going to do. But with the elevated risks of cold water diving, it is especially nice to have a concrete rules and concrete plans that we always follow.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's so cool to hear you talking about diving with your dad.
Yeah.
I first got certified because my dad needed a dive buddy.
Oh, so that's sweet.
Right there with you.
Yeah, you get it. You get it.
How long have you been a Dan member?
I think I've been a Dan member since 2019.
Okay.
Because we got certified in 2018, but it wasn't until 2019 where we really made it like a huge part of our lives, like diving every weekend, traveling for diving. And then we actually learned about Dan on one of our trips. I believe it was to Bonaire. And someone was telling a story about how they had something happen with their ear. I think it was a busted eardrum, something like not good.
Yeah.
And that they called Dan, and Dan was the people who guided them into finding a fix for his problems. And then that's when we learned about you guys, and we were like, well, we should probably get on that.
Great.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah. So I've been with you guys for years now.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the support.
Yeah, of course.
So Bella Zandona, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you. What a pleasure. Yeah, an
absolute
pleasure.
Yeah.